breathe.
Can't breathe.
Ain't easy.
Do you know how it feels to be black and get bumped cause your tone? Approach was real aggressive, now they burners at your dome. We need a new commander-in-chief, Pat Mahomes. This ain't black and white no more, it's right or wrong. I thought it'd be different by now, but I was wrong. Thought they'd be convicted in trial, false alarm. How is it that I ain't even safe in my own home? I guess now what's essential is a strap and a GoPro. We just want justice, we screaming it just because it's never been fair if your melanin's kinda muddy. Never had my back if you silent about it public. They just pull strings on you characters, you a muppet. We need it equal instead of evil. I just want a real opportunity for my people. I guess all this kneeling wasn't enough. It's not a bad apple, they do it because it's trust.
I swear to God, I tried it. I tried to speak and I fight it, 'cause
I can't breathe.
I can't breathe either.
I can't breathe. Dr. Lisa Calderon, it is so much going on. I mean, we could start anywhere.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe we start with why we're a little late today.
Oh, well, okay. Well, when we get to that, I better hit them with the trigger alert. This is a show that triggers people because you've entered a free think zone. If you're not willing to be exposed to other points of view, tune out now, like right now, and don't read the comments. You have been warned. Dr. Lisa Calderon is in the building.
In the hot building.
She's in the hot building. Well, we'll turn up. We'll cool it down as soon as Mike moves from over that corner. He's doing some. He's doing some stuff.
That's all right. It's all good.
But you know what? Dr. Lisa Calderon is the chief of staff for the wonderful, great, powerful, Councilwoman Candy C. DeBaca. You guys have a wonderful team.
We do.
You put together like an all-star team.
We did. I mean, Candy being our fearless leader, Liz Stallnacher, who, again, congratulations on the changing of the name, the neighborhood formerly known as Tolton.
The
Now
former
Central
Ku Klux
Park,
Klan
right.
keepsake name has been changed to Central Park. But Dr. Calderon, Central to what?
Exactly. It's not central to anything, but as Liz said, we'll take dull and boring over a Klansman's name any day.
That's a good
That's
point.
all right.
We've already come up with a name to call it because we know what's central to that community.
Yeah.
The county.
The county.
The county jail.
That's just up the street.
In the women's detention facility.
That's
so
right.
It could be the county west and the county east.
Right.
Because that's what's central to that community, county jail. But I don't know if they want to put that in the brochure.
They may not go for that, Brother Jeff.
They don't want to put up that sign that says "Don't pick up hitchhikers because you're near a correctional facility." They don't want to. They don't want to do that one.
Yeah.
Dr. Calderon, why are you late? What? I mean, you're not late. You're on time, but what are you doing? Where are you coming from now?
Actually, very good reason. I just came from the Park Hill Golf Course, where unhoused folks, some folks are camping out, and we had a nice little it's vast space, right?
There's enough
it's
space
vast
for them.
space, and we can talk about the politics behind Park Hill Golf Course in a minute, but first I want to, really. My heart hurts going out there and talking to folks, and any time talking to folks living in the streets of Denver. The folks I was talking to today, we're saying, again, where are we supposed to go? We did our homework, and this is a dynamic, smart, motivated group of young people who did their homework on this site. They looked at recommendations from what other people had for this site. The site is off of 40th and Colorado, just on the north west corner of the golf course, which is, been bought by a developer. So the fact that we have this vast tracts of land and we're kicking people off a little tiny corner of it because their presence makes people uncomfortable. They were clean, orderly, like all of those stereotypes that people have about the unhoused, these folks were aware of all of that. And again said, and we talked to the people in the neighborhood, we talked to the leasing agents, we talked to Denver police, we talked to RTD, and nobody is able to help us.
Now, I get that, but let me back it up because I might have missed a piece. You just came from a meeting with them?
Yes.
And they were on the property that was purchased by a private developer over by the Park Hill Golf Course.
Correct.
And they're asking, they did their research. They're there. They're clean. They're doing all those different things. And they're wondering where they go. So my question, Dr. Lisa Calderon, but with that being private property, that should be a clear-cut case in terms of, you can't just post up on private property, can you?
Well, good point. No. And if West Side developers who acquired that property said, hey, you know what, we're cool with it because we've been doing all this talking about outreach to the community, and we want to benefit the community, and we want to help solve homelessness and all of this affordable housing that we say we're going to promise you, even though there is no binding agreement. If they were cool with it, fine. This group also looked at city property, and we see what happens when people camp out on city property or state property. So let's just back up a little bit here, too. First of all, I was out there and talking to the media because there's this misconception that Candy recommended this site. This site is across the street from Candy's district, and Candy did what some of her other colleagues, including Councilman Chris Herndon, who the district where Park Hill Golf Course is, she did what he didn't even do, which was she gathered input from her constituents and was very transparent in that, sent out those results, and many people suggested Park Hill Golf Course. Now, that wasn't to say that she endorsed that plan, that we went and talked to them. It was like, here's what constituents are saying, Mayor Hancock. You asked us for suggestions, and so what we essentially did was responded to that call.
I don't understand. See, Dr. Lisa Calderon, this is why I always talk with you, because you make all of this muddy, tangled up stuff consumable for average individuals, because you are a policy person, you are a professor, you have a degree in law and all of those different things, and we celebrate that. But here's what I'd like to ask right now. Why would someone feel the need to blame Candy C. DeBaca for anything? If you're talking about someone who's been on the forefront of working with people and working with unhoused neighbors and building coalitions and attempting to figure out something to do, while many others have just simply said, let's just call the police and do sweeps in the middle of in the early morning, let's just criminalize this. Why would someone talk about what Candy C. DeBaca is doing? Let me reverse this. What is Councilman Christopher Hines doing? Not Hines, Herndon. What is Christopher Herndon doing?
Well, that was my challenge back to the media, is that, instead of blaming Councilwoman C. DeBaca for taking the initiative to actively ask her constituents for, listen, we know unhoused folks are out here because we are in an affordability crisis, and we are the second most gentrifying city in the nation.
And I've gone ahead and pushed them forward. They were second by a nose, and they pushed forward. We're the first. We're mile high. We're always first. We're the fastest, first, biggest, most pronounced gentrifier in the nation. That's who we are.
Yeah, and from the perspective of the unhoused, that's absolutely true. And from the perspective of people who are about to lose their homes because the evictions moratorium has been lifted, evictions are back in full effect. We're for all of those folks and all of those reasons. So that was exactly my message today for the media. So Councilman Herndon, step up. These are your constituents.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take Councilwoman C. DeBaca crossing the street to talk to your constituents to find them assistance for housing when you're busy blaming people.
Well, this is the point. Councilman Christopher Herndon, you keep running this playbook, and it's the same playbook that the mayor runs as well. It's pass the buck, it's hide, it's duck, and it's delegate. I remember when we had to carry the ball for him with our seniors, with the Hiawatha Davis Senior Luncheon. We were always saying, okay, this is a powerful tribute to our seniors, and Candy and you and staff and everyone put this together, but that's in Christopher's district.
Right.
You know, and so now you're talking about Christopher Herndon blaming Councilwoman Candy C. DeBaca for something, and he has no plan. Councilman Herndon, what's your plan for these unhoused neighbors? And I believe that's your district.
Right, not just a plan, but even suggestions. Right, you didn't even take the time to make suggestions. So there were 8 council members who submitted a letter to the mayor several weeks ago. Councilman Herndon was not one of the people who signed off on it, and what they were saying is, we collectively support the concept of safe outdoor spaces. Safe Outdoor Spaces it has been organized by the Colorado Village Collaborative, who brought us the tiny homes. That came out of the Occupy movement, so that wasn't easy either. People didn't want tiny homes in their backyard. And also the Interfaith Alliance and various service providers in the area. So all of these folks have been working together for months. And the city council members, 8 of them, said, we support this work. You know, the closed shelters where the COVID spread is much higher than outdoor spaces and fresh air. We need to look at this concept like they have in other parts of the nation. So Councilman Herndon didn't sign off on that letter. Then Mayor Hancock, after getting a lot of pressure from the homelessness rights activists like Denver Homeless Out Loud, finally agreed to safe open spaces. And so he asked council members for their recommendations. But he only asked those 8 who originally said they were supportive. There are 13 on city council, so where are the rest of those? And Councilman Herndon was not among the 8 and has subsequently not provided any follow-up response for where it should go also in his district.
Well, I generally ignore Councilman Herndon anytime a black man rallies for and lobbies for the Ku Klux Klan in the name of Stapleton, and then finds himself on the other side of the very neighbors he thought that were going to be supportive of him when they move forward to say it's time to change the name. It's hard to work your way back from there. But with that being said, I want to go back to this West Side developers.
Well, if I can just put a point on that too, it wasn't just him, right? I remember raising the issue with then Councilman Hancock about why do we still have a community that is named after a Klansman. And I know that there have been people way before me who are raising the question. So the fact that you're going to now rush in and take the glory for something that has taken years and years to change is just the height of arrogance to me.
Well, that's the new form of black political leadership that's working its way out. I mean, I'm glad that there's a new wave that's taking place, but in the middle, and sadly our generation, too many of them began to just be puppets for developers and money, and they could be able to articulate the wrong side of an argument as long as they were getting jobs and as long as they were getting elected and as long as they were getting campaign contributions and access to all those different things that Tony Pickford calls that crony capitalism. And so I definitely agree with that. But as it relates to West Side developers, I want to talk about the people you were talking with that are on a piece of land. You said West Side developers said they want to do something. Mm-hmm. If they want to do something for low-income, unhoused individuals, isn't this a perfect opportunity for them to prove it? Like, are these folks on the land doing like what are they doing with the land right now anyway?
Yes, this is a perfect opportunity to prove it. They are doing nothing with the land but letting it sit there. And we have to couch this in a conversation of the politics of poverty. That's what all of this fundamentally about, because in the politics of poverty is also the politics of wealth. And who are we preserving the land for? And I've said often on this show, who controls the land controls the power. And so what we have for people who are not familiar is there's a fight going on right now over the conservation easement on the Park Hill Golf Course. So Councilwoman Sedabaka is bringing forth a proposal working with another SOS named group, Save Our Open Space, to preserve land. Now, what people need to understand is it's not to preserve it in perpetuity for a golf course. What it's intended to do was to send the decision to the voters to say, hey, voters, you invested $2 million to buy an easement, which essentially is to allow the use of the public on that golf course, even though it was the Park Hill Golf Course is private land, but the city under Mayor Wellington Webb years ago said we want to preserve this for the public to use.
Right.
So basically, Westside then bought that right. They bought the golf course, bought that easement along with the golf course for a steal, $24 million. Now, $24 million sounds like a lot, but I think it's about 155 acres of land for $24 million in one of the hottest markets in the country. We know that property in that area is going for closer to 70 to 80 million baseline. Mm-hmm. So they bought land to essentially convince the public that they're going to build affordable housing and grocery stores and all of that, but there is no binding agreement for them to actually do that. Well, so a lot of promises are made, but until it's written down,
it's no promise.
It's worthless.
How many promises have we been promised just in our lifetime?
That's another thing that makes me tired.
You want to talk about Stapleton, you want to talk about Forest City, you want to talk about anything like
5 points.
I mean, how many promises do you accept before you realize that those promises aren't worth the mouths that are coming out of those words that are coming out of?
Well, and we know what happens. What happens is we're the second most gentrified city, the first in the nation, according to Brother Jeff.
First, because if we're second, we're real close. It's a photo finish.
Right. And so we know what happens. We've seen it time and time again, because what people get promised, what they leave out, these developers leave out, is how is it going to be financed? And Councilwoman Sedabaka has been trying to educate the community about this is a wolf in sheep's clothing, that you don't get something for nothing. It has to be financed, and it's usually financed off of the backs of those same 700 elders that we talked about who attended the lunch that the councilwoman hosted. That means it comes out of their property taxes, because you have to then create a metro district to tax the people who live in that metro district. So this is a special tax so that they could pay for the development on private property so that they could get a grocery store. Now, how long have we been trying to get a grocery store in Park Hill?
Do you want to go back to the Dahlia Shopping Center, or do you want to go to what they call the far northeast, that can actually maintain 2 or 3 major grocery stores and has not one?
All of that, I can trace it back also to my going back about almost 25 years. When I was a single parent with my son, I had to ride the bus and with my stroller and my baby to the grocery store down in, I think back then it was maybe 14th and Cremeria to get my groceries. So take 2 buses, because I lived off of Colorado Boulevard. We have been waiting for a long, long time. So, there are metrics that go into who gets a grocery store and who doesn't get one.
Well, who you starve out, and who do you starve, and who do you feed? It's
right.
that simple.
Exactly.
Who eats and who doesn't?
Exactly.
Who gets the fresh delivery, and who gets the stuff that was on somebody else's shelves.
Right. And in 9 years of this black mayor's tenure, the fact that we can't get one grocery store in Park Hill tells you something. So, it's making a lot of promises without actually anything to bind those promises. When that land gets parceled up and sold out, they're going to make a heck a lot more than they're going to recoup their $25 million quickly. And, it could be potentially up to $1 billion return in terms of once you cut up the land, sell the land, develop the land with all of these parcels, have commercial development. These people are getting a windfall, and we're saying we want a grocery store, so we're willing to have higher property taxes.
Store? And then what's so interesting about that is this latest political wave, the money must be very pleased with an administration that will give them everything and ask for nothing in return for his own community, people, or folks who are most in need. Because what I have known in the past is, there are developers that are willing to pay their fair share, or maybe even be what you might call equitable or charitable. But these folks are not even asking, let alone demanding, that they do anything. And so you're seeing those who have wealth have greater wealth, those who have access have continued access, and they're doing subpar work, such as at the airport and everywhere else. The City Park golf course, they're talking about preparing us and protecting us for a 100-year flood, and they can't even keep the streets dry with a basic rainstorm without flooding right up and down the streets right now. My question, Dr. Lisa Calderon, is one around that easement that no one ever seems to answer for me. And it's this. Under Mayor Wellington Webb, our tax dollars paid for an agreement, right? We paid for an agreement. Yes, this is property, but this is private property, but we will pay you for certain rights to have some open space, etc.
Right.
Someone took that money. And now here comes someone else saying, we don't want to do that. And because we are into crony capitalism, I could still purchase the property, but I've got people in place politically that will turn the other way and let me go ahead and develop this. But now you've got people in place that are saying, not so fast. We're not going to just have that consent agenda and just approve all of this stuff. The people have rights. You agreed to it. You purchased it knowing that was an agreement, and now you want to do something different. I don't understand how you argue against. I don't understand the other side of the argument.
Well, there are folks who are close to the mayor, who get a benefit from advancing the mayor's agenda, get a financial benefit from working with developers and promoting their agendas. And meanwhile, the rest of us are there, fighting for crumbs. And under Councilwoman Silabaca's proposal is that let's take this question to the voters to decide what should be done with that land. Now, we definitely believe that the people who are most impacted by an issue should absolutely get a say in what those solutions are. But it also can't just be the most vocal people. It also can't be the most connected, politically connected people. It doesn't also need to be the same people who get the benefits from the mayor. This has to be opened up to a lot of different voices. And the other thing is that just like Red Rocks is acquired, that's for the benefit of the people.
Right.
You know me, I'm a hiker, so
That's
I
right.
love using our Denver mountain parks, which a lot of our people don't know about and really need to get out there. That's for the benefit of the people. Imagine if in the mountain parks, the people in the surrounding area said, we don't want those people from Denver here. They don't get a voice in these parks, right? That's when the easement was set up initially, that was through a citywide vote, and we're saying that the same mechanism needs to be honored. Now, how that land gets developed absolutely should have input from those who are living near it. But what they're getting is basically a promise to give input.
A promise.
A promise, and the people so far who have been conducting community outreach sessions have ties to the developer and ties to the mayor.
Who's conducting these outreach sessions? Because, I remember when Albus Brooks and them were running that fake fraud about the City Park golf course, and they had some firm talking about they were reaching out to folks, and we found that to be a sham. Who are these people who are supposed to be reaching out to community? And if they are reaching out for community, is that paid for by West Side developers because that's their property?
You know, other folks, I mean, I've heard things like CRL and Associates. It's kind of like the same groups of people over and over and over again, whether it be Downtown Denver Partnership or, there's these various lobbyists, and they pop up over and over again in these same deals, and have gotten, rich off of their lobbying activities.
Why are they so greedy? Why isn't there anything tangible that I can see that has been given back from all of the wealth that these same folks have been generating money from generation to generation to generation? I can't see any boys and girls clubs. I can't see any type of programming. I can't see anything for the community good. I don't see anything. And now with West Side developers, what concerns me the most, there are people who speak on behalf of West Side developers, but the owners never show their face.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Quit sending the puppets out and the smoke screens. If you're about this, why don't you come talk about your own money as opposed to finding somebody who looks like me to articulate your particular vantage point? Bring yourself out here and talk to me. And what I want to know is if you've got some open space right now and you've got some people that are on that said open space, if you're being really genuine about your ability to want to be a part of this city, and this is one of the major problems that we have, then why you have a problem running folks off right now? If you're running them off now and you're not doing anything with the property, I can only imagine what's going to happen when that Trader Joe's goes up.
Right, and Candy's really good at connecting the dots for people. We might look at this Park Hill development as separate, but it really isn't separate. Like, this is by design. That's what I'm talking about, the politics of poverty and the politics of wealth. This is not accidental. Like, the same people who crafted the Denver camping ban, the Downtown Denver Partnership, are the same people who are connected to the revamp of the 16th Street Mall, the $100 million mall project, even though we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? There's an absolute stubbornness by political leaders to shift courses to say, something that was once done in times of prosperity, we can't do that now. I don't know about you, Brother Jeff, but I know in my family over the course of a couple of recessions, or even job losses, that we have to now say, you know what, that trip that we wanted to take, we can't take that now.
Of course not.
Right? We got to worry about paying our bills and staying in our home. And the fact that this city is reluctant to do that and use taxpayer dollars still in a midst of a pandemic and an economic crisis and the social unrest that's going on, and everyone is acting like business as usual at the policy level. This is why we are pulling back the layers to say this is by design. People need to pay attention. All of these actors are connected.
You're right. You start to see even the Downtown Denver Partnership Purple Jackets working and cleaning 5 Points. If their tentacles have now said, well, everything close to downtown is going to be ours, the North Side, 5 Points, everything. Even you can go over to Fairfax. I'm not saying that's the Downtown Denver Partnership, but the game plan with the money, it looks the same everywhere. The beer gardens, the same square modular kind of look. The concrete canyons that block off all of our beauty, the zoning that's kind of ambiguous that says, well, there's no real clear cut. They see the devil's in the detail.
Right.
There's no real, we can't say you can't do it, but we can't say you can do it. And all of that stuff is real tricky, and that's the way you get control over ordinary people's assets and their property, and you do it through policy.
Right. Can we just talk about the 5 Points bid for a minute?
Are you talking about when I went up to the big tall building on the 16th Street Mall that went way up into the sky, and they were the ones that were counting the votes, and I was like, uh-oh.
So for those who aren't familiar with it, for the 5 Points Business Improvement District has been run by the Downtown Denver Partnership. This is supposed to improve the legacy businesses in this area, as well as the newer businesses too. And what we see in these meetings is an erasure of the history of this community in favor of newer owners who are okay with the agenda of Downtown Denver Partnership. So, for example, it used to be that in order for you to have a say on the bid, and essentially it's a special taxing district, so that you can have better lighting, you can have trash improvement.
Everything you didn't have when we were,
right.
all the things that we could have benefited from. But
so when you were out there sweeping the sidewalk and all that, Brother Jeff, so this is supposed to pay for those services. But it also is a mechanism of planning future development in 5 points. And initially, after Candy got elected, we started attending these meetings, and you saw faces who didn't look like ours, let's say, around the table.
deciding critical issues.
And the people who actually had businesses, the black business owners largely sitting in the audience having to listen and raise their hand to speak, we're like, what the heck is going on here? So once we started asking questions about how is this bid, how are people being selected, we couldn't get answers from the mayor's office, from Romaine Pacheco. We said, what is the process? How do people know? How do they apply? And then the people on the bid, the couple of black women who were on the bid, they didn't even get to know who was applying for the bid. They didn't even have an opportunity to say, this is who we want to have on the board representing 5 points. So this last iteration, they got people who look like us, but they're not business owners they're not property owners or business owners, but they're not property owners. So we had people who have had businesses in this community for decades who applied to be on the bid, black business owners who were rejected for newer people who support the mayor's agenda.
Well, that's politics. That's the level of politics that are happening in the Mile High Income City. You do not become the fastest gentrifying city in the nation without all of the ugly underpinnings that go along with it. Right now, we are with Dr. Lisa Calderon. She is the chief of staff for the wonderful, great Candy C. DeBaca, our councilwoman, right here in what's known as the East Side.
That's right.
You can call it what you want.
Till we die.
The East Side. the East Side. Listen, go to brotherjeff.com, make a donation of any amount. We are powered by the people. brotherjeff.com. We haven't missed a payroll. We haven't cut hours. We haven't charged for anything that we didn't charge from in the past. And everything that we've been doing is because you continue to be generous. Go to brotherjeff.com, make a donation, or become a patron. Do you like my America You Owe t-shirt? America You
Yes.
Owe. That's
yes.
That's Big J, Jason McBride.
All right.
Look, it even
Love
looks
it.
like Jason McBride.
Jason, where can I get one of those shirts?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's your shirt, Dr. Lisa Calderon. That is your shirt. Compliments of Big J and McBride Impact. Everybody's doing some great work out here. And I want to talk a little bit about Chubby Curls, educating the natural community, one scalp at a time. Is it important, Dr. Lisa Calderon?
It's important. We got to keep our dues straight, and this humidity is killing me. But with Chubby Curls, that helps to take care of that. So
Dr. Lisa Calderon, I want to talk about a lot of different things because when you start talking about who has, who doesn't, who's included, who's priority, I don't even want to get into the extreme violence that we've been dealing with right now. 9 murders in 11 days, and then 6 murders since that, and all of those different things that are happening. But I want to talk about that in a moment. I want to talk about this, what's known as a sweep. And when I think of sweep, whenever you sweep something, you put it in the trash or you close it out, you sweep it. Criminalizing of unhoused neighbors, criminalizing folks that are, unable to keep up with the pace of the economy, criminalizing folks that are dealing with challenges, whether it be mental illness, substance abuse, or just unable to keep up and pay rent. Whenever I think of somebody bum rushing your house at 6 a.m. in the name of law enforcement, that's an extreme show of catching you off guard, using the element of surprise, and you just were able to witness that just in front of the state capitol. What happened?
Yeah, I saw your show on Friday kind of breaking that down, and you did a great job in talking about, we know what these early morning raids are, right? We get what they're intended to do. They're intended to intimidate, to catch you off guard, to make sure that you are disoriented, so you can't call for help, you can't assert your rights. You're made to feel like you've done something wrong. So for those of you who haven't checked out my Facebook page, it's gotten, I think, over 27,000 views. And basically, so the night before the sweep, our office had been reaching out to city officials saying, we're hearing there's a sweep that's going to happen at Lincoln Park. I've also heard it called Liberty Park and Veterans Park, but it's the little park across the street from the Capitol and in between the Civic Center Park. And no one was returning our requests for information. And so that should be clue number one, right? When everyone goes radio silent, we are going to now take that as confirmation, just so people know. And this, so we were trying to verify that. Then early on, we got notice from or alerted by Denver Homeless Out Loud that a sweep was happening. It actually did start around 6 a.m. And I learned about it around 7:30. I posted it on my Facebook page.
That's right.
And then was seeing that Therese was trying to broadcast. It was cutting out. So I was still trying to get information. We still weren't getting responses. And I'm just like, it's not in our district. It's across the street from our district. But people are going to then come over into our district. And we've had no notice. There was no coordination among providers. So I knew a mess was coming. So I went down there and basically turned on my Facebook Live to just show people what a sweep actually looks like. Interviewed folks, but what happened was that I was surrounded also by law enforcement. So we not only had Denver Police Department, we also had the State Patrol, state troopers. And let me tell you something. I think that the work that people have done and still continue to do to hold Denver police accountable showed in the sense of initially they held back in terms of confronting people, but it was the state troopers who have no accountability to Denver residents. There is not an independent monitor to have file complaints. These folks were, and probably not even from our community, many of them, because the way that they were talking to people was atrocious to me. So you saw from my video that I was pushed even though I was complying with orders. I was told to walk faster. And then when I was pushed out of the encampment, I really demanded that someone in authority allow me back in, that I was representing a councilwoman and wanted to make sure that people's rights were protected. Got a sympathetic person liaison, Sergeant White with the state trooper, who allowed me in. But then, as you saw, even after I got in, I was being bullied to be moved back out. So media was kicked out, advocates were kicked out, and we had no voice on the ground. But you saw someone from the mayor's office, Evan Dreyer, was
Evan,
there.
He's always there, but he's like, Evan is always hidden in plain sight. Evan reminds me of one of those Underground Railroad kind of tapestries. If you see it, you know it, but if you don't, you're going to walk right past it.
Yeah, yes. I probably would use a different analogy than the Underground Railroad, because You're right.
He's hidden in plain
He's pulling
sight.
a lot of the strings behind the scenes. And I think that when people are like, and that you posted on your Facebook page about the mayor singling out, and so did I, the mayor singling out Candy for, alerting the public about the secret raid that apparently had been planned for several weeks. As if that was a wrong thing to do, as if that wasn't part of her obligation as a public official to let people know how law enforcement was going to be used against poor people. And some of the law enforcement officers I spoke with, they don't like being put in that position either.
Of course.
So the fact that that was happening, but the mayor would instead blame her rather than giving the unhoused folks 7 days notice per a settlement agreement.
Did you find any notices?
No, I never saw any notices. And what we were told was, we let some people know. Well, you didn't let our office know. I didn't see notices posted. We talked to people who never saw notices. A few people heard something was going on, but there wasn't a date, a time. That's what the 7-day notice does. It spells out the blocks.
And it was a legal situation that the city was supposed to comply with.
Right, exactly. So there was already, because the urban camping ban was ruled unconstitutional. But also, this another case was, let's give folks notice to pack up and give them the opportunity to leave peacefully, to leave in a nonviolent way, as opposed to the violent way when you have law enforcement rushing in and essentially raiding a camp of sleeping people.
It's so interesting to see, because it seems like the Mile High Income City has been governed via PR and slogans, like as if a slogan can, really become the solution for these real pressing problems of the time and challenges of the time. We hear we're all in this together, but if we're all in this together, doesn't CDC regulations say that you don't move that COVID around from place to place? Like when you sweep and you start moving things. Dr. Calderon, I go to the different tents and we feed and we drop off, just basic, not only food, but tissue, just basic items. There's no masks in these places. I mean, if you're thinking about a health concern that will impact your city and you start moving people around, and particularly the most vulnerable, isn't there some health ramifications around this? And if we're all in this together, is this the time to be like sweeping folks and pushing them and moving them?
Well, first of all, we're not all in this together. It's a lie.
Gerald, hand me that remote right there.
We're
not in this together.
You call it a slogan, we can do better. I call it a lie, because it was, there was never that intention. Like, just saying something doesn't make it true. And in fact, it makes it worse, because there's the expectation that you're actually going to do better. There's the expectation that you're going to put resources behind doing better. So we're not doing better. We're doing worse. The mayor defends his actions by saying, well, and it was the public health director's call, and Bob McDonald said it's his call as the head of.
Bob coordinated the police. Bob coordinated the state patrol. Bob, like an old low-level public health. That's like having the accountant.
And if you believe that, you believe the slogan, we can do better. Because you cannot pull off an operation that involves state troopers and park rangers and Denver police and Denver Department of Public Health and Environment and all these entities.
No meeting.
From one public health position.
No huddle.
As if the city attorney's office wasn't involved in all of this.
No coordination.
So please, stop talking to the public like we're stupid. We know that this was a coordinated stealth effort to disrupt people's situations. Now, nobody is advocating that these unsanctioned camps are the way to go. This is out of survival. So we're all advocating for better solutions. So the way that they got around the no notice is that we're going to weaponize the public health order to say that there's an exception in the 7-day notice, and that is in cases of public health emergency. Excuse me, but I think those camps had been there for several weeks. What was the emergency then? The emergency was that Governor Jared Polis didn't like it and decided to have the state troopers go out and clear the camps. That is what was also different. So give me a break. We have been living with COVID since March. And so in July, say, all of a sudden, we have a public health emergency on these camps is just BS.
So where did that public health emergency go? Because if it's a public health emergency there, it's not a public health emergency somewhere else. Like, where did it go? Because I watched your feed from beginning to end. No one got on those buses or that bus. We saw and I'm not really a big fan of what they call these, the ride-along mental health providers. Because if that's an example of what that is, for someone to, in a very indignant way, say, well, I did 2 intakes,
right,
and then make a beeline to be surrounded by the police, and she was only being questioned by you, and then she said, are you with the media? I can't talk to you. Like, she's flustered. This is the mental health provider that is flustered with just a very simple interaction. And then when one more person started talking, she was like, well, I could talk to you. And then when she heard a little bit more, she ran like to the police, and the next time I saw her, she was standing in the middle of the police as if, whew, I'm in partnership with the police, and that's my safety and my security, and lost total sight of her ability and her responsibility to be looking out for those who might have been in breakdown. I don't think that was a good look.
And folks can see the interaction on my Facebook page. You know, I think and what Brother Jeff is referring to is when, I was asking, where are the mental health resources? Because when you lose your home, it's right up there with a loss of a death or a divorce in terms of it can spiral you into depression. I mean, and these are folks' homes. So as these big dumpster trucks are coming in and their stuff is being thrown into the trash, and at one point, you see a black woman crying and showing that a Bible was thrown into the trash, and there was a place marker as they were reading the Bible. There was just no regard for things that were getting thrown away. And so I was in the middle of a very traumatic event. And so I'm wondering, and people were commenting on my feed, they were being traumatized just watching it. And so I was asking this mental health worker from Mental Health Center of Denver, MHCD, where's the supports? And because people were upset, she couldn't hear their upset. Now, what we subsequently learned was that she was on a ride-along and basically said, come on, you're coming with us. We're going to this, whatever they were calling it.
She didn't sign up for this
She
trip.
didn't necessarily sign up for it. So what it does is it pits providers against unhoused folks who need their services when they look to be part of a militarized police operation. And that is not the way to build trust with people. So, part of the politics of poverty is we don't think about if this was a housed person and police just rushed into their home and said, get out of here, you got to move, and started throwing their stuff in the trash, we would have, society-wise, we would have more empathy to say that's wrong, right? People should have due process. But somehow for unhoused people, because we don't like, as Candy says, the aesthetics of poverty, how poverty looks, we're inconvenienced when people are outside and they're doing behaviors that are, problematic, that people often do behind closed doors, that housed people do oftentimes behind closed doors. We say they're less than human. We don't care where they go. We don't care about their rights. And, that's just not moral. It's not ethical. And we, let's all be part of the problem or part of the solution instead of being part of the problem.
But, 1,000 years ago when we were all together and Mayor Hancock was a part of, the community and urban league and kind of had a social kind of lens to himself, everything we're saying would have made sense to him then. It makes total nonsense to him right now. How do we get so far lost along the way?
Well, speaking specifically to the Black community, we have lost the connection through affinity groups, through our mentors, through our elders, because all of that process has been disrupted by displacement. And displacement did not happen by accident. It's no longer good enough to say, oh, it's happening in every city, so that's just the regular course of business. You know, when I was running for mayor, I was putting out there, like, where are the anti-displacement policies? We knew this was coming years ago. We didn't just have to accept this as a norm. And yet, that's what happens. So when you have little political voice, regardless of the color of someone's skin, making decisions in the most powerful seat in the city, it doesn't matter if the masses don't have access to that political power, if they don't have access to that information. And so that's part of what Candy does, is she throws the veil back, says, here it is. If you give people a 7-day notice, it's safer. Why all of the secrecy? Because it's a show of force. And that's what we've come to in Denver politics is, the part I wanted to also bring up was the issues of sexism. When Candy is criticized for sharing information, for being on social media, for tweeting out what's going on city council,
for being transparent to the public.
Imagine that. She gets criticized for the thing that she said she would do when she was running for office, which is a transparent and accountable government. And then you have some people who say, she needs to keep her big mouth shut. Well, a lot of those folks, you wouldn't necessarily say that to a man in power. And so it's repeated, it's over and over again, it's tiresome. And of course we get the sexist and the misogynistic threats constantly. But this is also part of being in one of the dirtiest arenas around, which is politics, and why we've got to change the game.
Well, I can tell you, I've been really interesting. By the way, Dr. Lisa Calderon is in the building, giving a clinic as always, dropping all kinds of jewels. Pick them up if you like. If you don't, we'll pick them up. They're recyclable. Don't worry, because this game continues until we change it. Where was the mayor? Like, when you start thinking about the sweep of that magnitude, it seems like his leadership style is through delegation and passing the responsibility. Nothing ever stops with him. You know what I mean? Even with the detective Leslie Branch Wise, it wasn't me, it was my assistant. You know what I mean? With the sweep, it wasn't me, it's public health. Everything is, it wasn't me when it's something critical. It's always me when something new and shiny is being, a ribbon is being cut. It's always me front and center. Never me when the hard decisions need to be made and the accountability needs to stop with said leader. Where was the mayor? Like, where was he?
You mean other than at a press conference criticizing Candy for being transparent? Where has he been, right? This is happening on his watch. The social unrest as a result of the killing of George Floyd. You can't just do performative moves to march with people and then, on the other hand, send in a raid of police officers for the same conduct that they were being criticized for. He's launched this new initiative called Dyer.
Dyer?
Dyer. I can't remember.
Sounds
it's Denver
dire.
Inclusive Equity something
It
or
sounds
other.
dire.
Right? It sounds dire, and it was this. It's a new initiative. So once again, we had host, we have hope, you just go to the alphabet soup of initiatives.
Somebody gets a job.
Somebody gets a job, so someone else is now going to get a job to head this new institute to study racial problems in order to rebrand the mayor as someone who is in touch with the issues of racism, excessive force, and the defund the police movement. But he did not include activists at the table, right? It's been academics, it's been executives who are now making this policy for what needs to happen for racial justice, and there wasn't even the word justice in their statement for what the principles that they were going to do. So, it's just it's just par for the course. Another day in the city of Denver.
Are we belly aching, because we're on the other side of the victory? It's like you and I, we just angry.
Or are we on the other side of victory?
Well, I think we're winning.
We're still in the struggle.
I'm just saying. In terms of that race.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Candy's victory is they can't get rid of her.
But I'm just saying, are we too hard on the mayor? Should we be saying that? Is it fair to say that if you're going to sweep the most vulnerable out of sight, you should at least be able to stand and watch them while you're doing it?
Yeah, come on down. Talk to the people.
If there's 9 murders in 11 days inside of your city, you should probably be front and center, at least paying condolences to the families. Is there a time to show up other than the press conference and being surrounded by the brass, and with the banner behind you and the podium and the tidy little do my very best Andrew Cuomo kind of skit, Is there a time for the mayor to stand up and say, these are some difficult things, these are some difficult decisions, or is it just always police, 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 send the police? And where was the mayor? Where was the police chief?
Well,
it's all of the public health guy?
It's the line workers who, the public health workers who are sent on these front lines, and they get shouted at, and they'll get the insult, or they'll see the trauma, and they're traumatized by it. But no, I didn't see the mayor in the sweeps. We absolutely need a new paradigm of public engagement. It's not that hard. I mean, even his Facebook, page, his social media, his tweets, they're all done by a machine, right? Of people who, it's not even his authentic voice. And so when we have a woman and a woman of color who's like, I'm going to put it all out there for everyone to see. I'm hearing your feedback. I'm hearing your criticism, but at least I'm engaging with you. And that's what I was elected to do. Hancock is term limited. He's got 3 more years. He doesn't have to do one more thing. Right?
He's got a few more months, though. I think I've figured this out, Dr. Calderon. I figured it out. As much as I don't like Biden, and I'm going to vote for Mr. Crime Bill, don't get me wrong, I'm going to vote for Biden, I think. I'm sure I'm not voting for Donald J. Trump. But I'm thinking that if we can get Biden elected, perhaps he will pick Mayor Hancock to be a federal appointee, and he could leave town early. That's my prayer.
Or maybe he can pick a kick-ass woman of color for the same high-profile federal appointment, and we can actually start grooming local leaders.
But can we do something? Like right now, Hancock is not built for this moment. He's not built for Black Lives Matter. He's not built for, this whole discussion about law enforcement. He's not built for, the Great Hall at DIA. He's not built for the convention center. He's not built for this unhoused neighbor situation. He's not built for COVID and the economy and all of the things that are in place right now in this day and time. He's a great person, a great human being, I would imagine, but policy-wise, he doesn't have the scope and the breadth to really stand up and be the leader to say, you know what, we're going to treat people with dignity and respect. Yes, we have an unhoused neighbor program, but policies that I've been a part of are what has created it, and our mission was to move it, to sweep it, to get rid of it. So it's not really a problem for me, it's a problem for society, but the blueprint was to build a mighty city and to get rid of all of the portions that can't contribute to the coffers. We want to get rid of that. He's not the one to build and address this unhoused neighbor situation. They took the money for the unhoused neighbors out of the meters and used it to pay for sweeps.
Right.
That's not the one.
You know, you and I both grew up here. We followed his career. I don't think I've ever seen a time, and it's been bad before, but where he is more out of touch than he is now. Just even the tone of his press conference, whether it be around the George Floyd protests, whether it be the shootings of young people, the tragedies there, or the sweeps, just out of touch. And I think that's what you get with a third-term mayor, right? He doesn't need to be connected. But I hear what you're saying is if he got some big fancy job in Washington, would he go? Probably. The question is, who would then take his place? We got
to do something, because here's the situation, Dr. Lisa Calderon. And before we get out of here, we're talking about this unhoused neighbor situation, the way the most vulnerable are treated with disrespect. And it is how you treat the least that will determine and be kind of how you'll be remembered.
Right.
Anybody can treat somebody who has everything well. Anybody can, go and make people who are rich richer. That's not difficult. Right. But when it comes down to saying, I'm going to build a city, or I'm going to be the leader where there are folks that really could use good leadership in this moment and can count on me, like a Candy Cedabaka, like a Dr. Lisa Calderon, and so many others, a Tay Anderson, a Leslie Herod, brother James Rashad. There's a list of James Coleman. There's a list of individuals that are built for this moment. He's built for a past moment, which was like crony capitalism, and as long as everything's going well, you can continue to rob the piggy bank. Here's what's happening with our unhoused neighbors. You have Jesus Saves. You have Catholic Charities. You have Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. You have the Stout Street Clinic. You have all of those entities, St. Francis Center, compressed and condensed in one area, in the same area that you wanted to get rid of people so you could build a city. Those are property owners. They're not leaving. And the people who depend on those agencies for their services will always be there.
Right.
So
right.
Why not bum rush these unhoused neighbor camps with resources, and then have the police say, oh, you mean there was a sweep? We didn't know. Why not send in the mental health providers, the substance abuse providers, the people who already have a relationship with those individuals and know their stories? Why not send them in?
Because I think you said it on Friday, and that is, we're treating human beings like garbage, because that's what a sweep conjures up. And when you have policy built around that certain people are less worthy than other people, then you don't have to care. We have to be able to build the bench. 3 years may seem like a long time, but I can tell you a lot of, to run a campaign, you've got to be ready to run probably at least in another year. And with campaign finance laws changing, to some extent, it's going to greatly even the playing field. So that big money can't be flooded into individual candidates. There'll still be dark money that happens, but people really need to be thinking about, how can I learn about city council? How can I learn about how to run a city? Where to look for laws? The people who have been coming and speaking out at city council meetings have been largely millennials and Generation Zers, right? It's been the younger group of folks who say, this is wrong. I want more transparency in my government. And if city council members, if you're not going to listen, I'm going to be prepared to run against you. Hold on to that. We need that, because some of these folks on council are going to be running for mayor. So remember that, when we look back about when this all started, or started gaining momentum, it was with the Gentrification Summit. And that was, I think, 2018 or so.
Inside of Shorter Community
AME Church with Reverend Timothy Tyler. We packed that church. We had over 300 people, maybe 400 people attend. Candy had recently announced she was running. I hadn't announced yet. But that's really where that momentum started. And so what we are saying to folks is don't let this moment, the post-George Floyd protest, dissipate, because they are relying on that. They are relying on you forgetting. They are relying on you being too busy with your survival issues to not come to council, to not hold your council representatives and the mayor accountable. And we've seen what movement building can do. So we have various advisory groups. Let us know if you want to belong to any of them to help inform public policy. We have a budget committee. We have a defund the police committee that's kind of looking at reallocation of public resources, public safety resources. We have a Parks and Rec committee. So just let us know what your interest is, and we will plug you in. We are interested in hearing you. And by the way, Brother Jeff, we've got people on those advisory committees to help advise Candy on public policy from across the city. These are people who say, my council person is not listening to me. And so this is how you build a citywide coalition.
Dr. Lisa Calderon and Councilwoman Candy Cedarbach and that whole team, I'm so just excited about what you all are already doing. I'm more than willing to put in some more money for the Dr. Lisa Calderon for mayor campaign. I'd love to do that. I'm not off the ship.
I know. Let's just say I'm not done yet.
Okay, I'm not off
Whatever
the ship.
that may be.
I'm not off the ship. So everybody who's wondering, I'm with Dr. Lisa Calderon till further notice. I can tell you this, everybody. We're going to do better, and it's going to be beyond the slogan. We're going to treat folks with dignity and respect. We're going to stay transparent. We're going to continue to speak truth to power. We're going to continue to ask the mayor, where are you at on critical issues? If folks are going to be swept under your name, you should at least stand in there where Evan was standing and watch it go down and hear the woman who's crying because the Bible is being thrown inside of the trash, being there by the time Tay is assaulted by the police. Dr. Lisa Calderon had already been pushed and shuffled out, so it's not a far stretch to say that, there was some disconnect happening or some same behaviors that were taking place. We can do better, and we will do better. For whoever's with West Side developers, love to talk to you. I'm talking about the one who who was at the signing at the title with the title company and signed them reams of paper, and they said, we pulled this easement out. Don't worry about that. We'll handle that. We got political inroads. Don't worry about that. We can still develop what we want. Right. I'd love to talk to you because here's an opportunity to give us a hand with all that we're seeing out here in the shadows. If you're going to help us, if you're going to work with us and be a part of community, this is a great time to do it.
That's right. And thank you, Brother Jeff, for keeping it real, keeping them honest, continuing to broadcast from the great 5 Points on Welton Street. Thank you to Gerald as well for also being here.
Give Dr. Calderon, give Candy Cedarbach. You got to give her the pound when you go see her in just a few minutes.
That's right. And our wonderful team with Candy and Liz and Bria. Much love to you all and to our community, and that's why we do this. So thank you.
Dr. Calderon, before you go, what's your vision? Like, if we were able to fix this, like in the short term right now, with our unhoused neighbors, what could we do immediately that's not being done?
Reallocate funds from the public safety budget to put them into direct services on the street where we need them. We know that the solution to housing or to homelessness is housing. Say it again, right? The solution to homelessness is housing. That if we want to get folks off the street, if you're tired of seeing poverty, be part of the solution and help get housing.
Makes all the sense in the world to me. Thank you, Big J, for the shirt. Dr. Lisa Calderon has one as well. Go to brotherjeff.com, make a donation of any amount. We appreciate you all for what you all continue to do. Mayor Hancock, we're not against you. We're just disappointed in some of the directions that you're going, and we believe that you can turn this ship around, and it won't be done with slogans. People should have an opportunity to be treated with human dignity.
That's right.
And respect. And you, as someone a part of our community and someone that's a man of faith, you should know this more than anyone else. We're preaching to the choir. And with that being said, everybody, if you go down swinging. Just might score a knockout. Rumble Young Man, Women in Community. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thanks.
Lisa Calderon, for the update. There it is. She does it again.